Sheila Johnson once sold a $15,000 violin her parents had bought for her as a child, not because she wanted to, because her company needed the money. That company was BET Fair Black Entertainment Television. And years later, that sacrifice would help make Sheila Johnson the first black woman billionaire in American history. But instead of simply enjoying her fortune, she did something almost nobody expected. She walked away from television and entered an industry she knew almost nothing about: hospitality. She bought land in Virginia's horse country and spent nearly a decade fighting to build a luxury resort that local opposition tried desperately to stop. She won the final battle by just one vote, and today that resort stands as the centerpiece of a much larger empire. This is the extraordinary story of Sheila Johnson. The $170 million resort, about an hour outside Washington, D.C., in Virginia's historic horse and wine country, sits Salamander, Middleburg. The property stretches across roughly 340 acres and was built at a reported cost of around $170 million. It isn't simply a hotel, it is an entire luxury destination. The resort features 168 rooms and suites, a massive spa, restaurants, wine experiences, and a major equestrian center designed specifically for the culture of the surrounding community. The property even includes a professional riding arena, stables, riding facilities, outdoor activities, and access to the wineries surrounding Middleburg. And its biggest distinction is its Forbes recognition. Salamander earned 5-star recognition across its rooms, restaurant, and spa, putting it among America's highest-end hospitality destinations. But here's what makes the story remarkable. Sheila Johnson had never worked in the hotel business before. She was entering an industry she didn't understand from the ground up, and that wasn't the first time she had done it. The girl with the violin. Sheila Crump was born in 1949 in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. Her father was one of the country's early black neurosurgeons, while her mother was an accountant. Because of her father's career, the family moved frequently, but one experience during Sheila's childhood would leave a lasting impression. When her family lived in Louisville, Kentucky, her parents enrolled her in an all-white school because they believed it would provide her with a better education. Her mother, who was darker-skinned, couldn't simply walk into the school to pick her up without risking racist hostility. So Sheila was given simple instructions: keep your mouth shut, do your work, keep going, and that mindset would follow her for the rest of her life. Her refuge became music. By the age of 9, she was already a serious violinist. She eventually became the first African American to win a statewide violin competition in Illinois. She earned a scholarship to the University of Illinois and became the school's first black cheerleader. Then, during freshman orientation, she met Robert Johnson. They married in 1969, and together they would eventually build one of the most important media companies in American history. From violin teacher to businesswoman after college, Sheila moved near Washington, D.C., where she taught music at Sidwell Friends School. Her salary was modest, so she created another income stream: private violin lessons. And she didn't treat those lessons like a hobby. She built them into a real business. Eventually, she had around 100 students. She also founded a youth orchestra called Young Strings in Action, which performed internationally. That experience quietly taught her something extremely important: how to run a company. She learned about taxes, record keeping, expenses, operations, and the small details that keep a business alive. Then came 1979. Sheila and Robert Johnson co-founded Black Entertainment Television, BET. They started with a relatively small investment and an enormous ambition: create a television network specifically serving black audiences in America. The early years were difficult, but the company operated under intense financial pressure. But they kept going. By 1991, BET became the first black-controlled company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. What began as an uncertain television startup had become a major American media business. But Sheila Johnson's biggest sacrifice was still ahead. The violin she gave up. During BET's difficult early years, Sheila Johnson made a decision that showed just how seriously she believed in the company. She sold her childhood violin. The instrument had reportedly cost her parents $15,000. It wasn't just an expensive object. It represented her childhood, her music, and the sacrifices her parents had made for her. But she sold it to help keep BT alive. Think about that. A woman who had built her identity around music was willing to give up one of her most meaningful possessions to protect a business she and Robert had created. And eventually, that gamble paid off. In 2001, BET was sold to Viacom for around $3 billion. The sale transformed Sheila Johnson's financial life. She became the first Black woman billionaire in American history. But the moment she reached the top financially was also the beginning of one of the hardest chapters of her personal life, losing the company she helped build. Around the same period, Sheila Johnson's marriage to Robert Johnson ended after roughly 3 decades. She has publicly described the relationship as involving years of infidelity and emotional pain. Then came another painful reality. She was pushed out of the company she had helped build. Imagine the position she found herself in. She was suddenly one of America's wealthiest women, but she had lost her marriage, she had lost her role at BET, and she was trying to figure out what came next. For many people, that might have been the moment to disappear. Sheila Johnson chose the opposite. She went to Middleburg, Virginia, and there she decided to start again. The 10-year battle. Sheila had fallen in love with Middleburg's countryside, farms, horses, and wine culture. She bought a farm. Then she came up with a much bigger idea, a luxury resort. There was just one problem. The community didn't want it. The proposed resort would occupy hundreds of acres in a region known for its rural character and historic estates. Opposition quickly grew. Environmental concerns and preservation arguments became major parts of the debate. But Johnson also described experiencing racial hostility as a Black woman trying to build in the region. She has spoken about hostile town meetings, death threats, and the feeling that she had entered a battle much larger than a simple zoning dispute. One story captures her attitude perfectly. She repeatedly passed a gun shop displaying a Confederate flag. Instead of backing down, she eventually bought the building and transformed it into a market. But buying the building was easy compared with getting permission to build the resort. The approval process dragged on for years. There were petitions, public hearings, town meetings, multiple attempts to move the project forward. At one point, Johnson's team had to address major infrastructure requirements, including water and wastewater facilities. She has also described suffering a multi-million-dollar setback after hiring the wrong development team. The project seemed almost impossible. Then, after nearly 10 years of fighting, everything came down to one vote. She won, and Salamander Resort and Spa finally opened in 2013. The resort they tried to stop changed the town. Here's where the story becomes almost ironic. The resort that had faced years of opposition became an important economic engine for Middleburg. It created jobs, it brought wealthy travelers into the area, and those visitors didn't only spend money inside the resort. They ate at local restaurants, visited local stores, explored nearby wineries, and helped put Middleburg on the map as a luxury destination. Johnson also became deeply involved in the community. She founded the Middleburg Film Festival, bringing major filmmakers and cinema audiences into Virginia's horse country. She hosted culinary events and eventually expanded the resort concept into luxury residential development. The project became more than a hotel. It became an ecosystem, a resort, homes, equestrian facilities, dining, culture, tourism, and jobs. The woman who had once been told she didn't belong had created one of the area's most important destinations. But Sheila Johnson wasn't finished, building a hospitality empire. Once Johnson proved she could build a luxury resort from scratch, she began expanding. The Salamander collection grew beyond Virginia into other states and the Caribbean. Its portfolio came to include major luxury properties such as Innisbrook Resort in Florida, Hotel Bennett in Charleston, Half Moon in Jamaica, and Aurora Anguilla. She even brought the Salamander brand into Washington, D.C. So the Middleburg Resort wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of another empire. But hospitality wasn't her only new arena. Johnson also entered professional sports ownership. Through Monumental Sports and Entertainment, she became a part owner of 3 Washington professional sports franchises: the NBA's Washington Wizards, the NHL's Washington Capitals, and the WNBA's Washington Mystics. That made her the first African-American woman to hold ownership stakes in 3 different major professional sports teams, and she became especially involved with the Mystics and the broader push for greater visibility and opportunity in women's sports. The philosophy behind the empire. In 2023, Johnson published her memoir, Walk Through Fire. The title fits her story almost perfectly because nearly every major chapter of her life required her to walk through something difficult. As a child, she faced racial barriers. As a young musician, she had to prove herself. As an entrepreneur, she helped build BET from the ground up. When the company struggled, she sold the violin that meant so much to her. When her marriage ended and she lost her position at BET, she started over. And when an entire community fought her resort project for nearly a decade, she kept showing up until she finally won. That's the common thread. She keeps building and she keeps going. From $15,000 to a $170 million vision, Sheila Johnson's story isn't really about becoming a billionaire. It's about what she did after becoming one. She could have simply bought expensive houses, traveled the world, and disappeared from public life. Instead, she invested in industries she had never worked in. She built hotels, she invested in sports, she supported the arts, she created jobs, she helped develop communities, and she turned personal setbacks into new business opportunities. The contrast is almost unbelievable. A $15,000 violin, a $3 billion BET sale, a $170 million resort, a national hospitality portfolio, and ownership stakes in 3 professional sports franchises. The numbers are impressive, but the real legacy is bigger. Sheila Johnson didn't simply build wealth. She built institutions, she built opportunities, and she built something that remained standing after the battles were over. From a little girl carrying a violin to a billionaire building a luxury empire in Virginia, her story is a reminder that rejection doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means build anyway. And sometimes the person being told they don't belong ends up changing the place forever. If you want more stories about Black entrepreneurs, billionaires, and the empires they built from the ground up, subscribe to Legacy Lens, because the next story might be even bigger.